Up next is Janna Coumoundouros. Now this girl is a master of many crafts as a photographer, jewelry designer, and clothing designer. And what's really cool is where she gets her inspiration and what she uses in her designs. Check it out.
I think I'm really drawn to things that are old. There's just something about that old, and also that sense of history that comes along with it too. When I went to college, I did photography and got wrapped up in that and realized that's kind of how I've always seen the world. Just didn't ever have the camera or the access to it. I remember playing with focus with my eyes. So I would have an object in front, and I remember just kind of like keeping that in focus and blurring the back and then switching, and not even knowing that that was depth of field. I ended up actually shooting houses and doing real estate, and I'm still doing it. It's been 16 years. That's kind of, I guess, you could say my real job. But then on a website called freecycle.org, there was a cash register from the 1950s, and I just knew I wanted it. I don't know why, but I knew I wanted it. So I went and picked it up. It weighed like almost 100 pounds, and I started taking it apart, and the pieces inside were almost completely black. You could barely even tell, what they were. And then I started shining them up, and as soon as I saw them all shiny and realized their potential, I thought, this has to be jewelry. My jewelry and even the dresses sort of relate to the photography in the way that I like to do things that are overlooked and maybe even seen as garbage, with the machines and stuff, and then kind of bringing more life into them and making them beautiful. I like to try and take these big gears and things like that, but then pay attention to current fashion and what's sort of in style and see how I can combine them and just bring it back to life. The hard part is finding parts nowadays that are still metal and that are small enough to make into jewelry. So that's kind of always been a little bit of a challenge. Right now I'm looking for the old vintage keys because keys are becoming obsolete too. So I'm trying to hoard them whenever I can find them. But as far as the dresses, how that came along is I was doing a fashion show for Lawrence Tech University for the main event. And they said, we're going to challenge the designers and we're going to give you all pieces of, like automotive parts. And I said, perfect, that's what I do already. But they didn't give me any metal. Instead, they gave me all these materials and things. And I'd always sewn a little bit, and I always wanted to be a fashion designer growing up. But I thought, well, this is my chance. I thought, I'm just going to start making dresses and, see what happens. So I won that contest, and then that turned into getting asked to do the DIA Samurai Exhibit 1, and I ended up winning that one, and I used the same material. So I went back to the company that makes it in Tiva, and I said, what about Charity Preview? What if we made some dresses for Charity Preview? And they said, yeah. I really love it. It's fun. It's right up my alley because I think I would get bored with regular material. Kind of just like with jewelry. I get bored with regular jewelry materials. I need to be able to take something and do something different with it. So taking this automotive material that's like your sunroofs and your panels and things like that, and then turning it into something that's, fashion and in style and, especially the evening gowns. To take something so crazy and make it into something so delicate and pretty has been the challenge. And I love it. I can't imagine designing in regular fabric ever again. It starts out with a sketch when I make them, and then it kind of comes down to playing with the material and going, nope, that's not gonna work. Because it really dictates the design because it's got its own mind. And then I start taking the material and just sort of playing with it and see what will happen from there. So it's a lot more like sculpture than it is really fashion design. We're gonna do a fashion shoot today. We're opening a restaurant across the street called Conserva. It's a beautiful space down there, and the model's down there right now getting her makeup done. And I say model, she's actually a musician, and she's really, really talented. And I'm really excited to put her in one of my automotive dresses, but we're gonna give it, rather than an elegant look, we're gonna give it kind of a punk look. I like to shoot musicians. I always find that they're fun, and they bring their guitar, and I love when they just start playing and you can get them in their natural state, and yeah, it should be a really good time. I grew up just loving Vogue so much. And any fashion magazine, I just would pore over the pages. I couldn't wait to get a hold of one. I've just always admired that sort of photography. I like to do things that are a little bit different. I made this giant vat of like this fudge kind of molasses sort of thing that looked like tar. And I took a model and dripped it on him and just let it kind of pour down, and then did this black and white shoot of it. So it's fun every once in a while just to do a really creative shoot, just to be creative and get some beautiful shots. Sometimes I submit them to Vogue Italia, and I do have quite a few photos on there. Most of my pieces are one of a kind. Like the piece that I'm wearing here is one of my favorites actually, but this part here is from a camera, and it actually held the lens, which I don't usually take apart cameras because as a photographer it just feels so wrong. But this one was so damaged that, you know, I had to see what was inside. And then I ended up setting a stone and putting it in the inside. So, and then these are pieces of vintage metal that I hammered out and kind of mixed things up. So, I mean, I definitely love fashion, and I keep, you know, the current trends in mind, but at the same time, it's more, I get one idea for something, and then while I'm searching for a piece for that, I get an idea for another one. So I'm usually working on 3 different pieces at once, and it kind of just happens. Here's the thing about the machines. I really use those suckers from beginning to end, because first I'll shoot pictures of them before I take them apart. I take apart the process of taking them apart, then I use it in the jewelry, and then of course shoot more photos. Put it on models, shoot more photos, make fine art prints there. So the pop-up numbers that come out of the cash register were laying in a box, and I just shot a photo of it. Someone said, you know, those almost look like dates. And so I started doing date photos. It's kind of neat because I was shooting real estate and walked into someone's bedroom, and there was one of my date photos hanging on their wall. And that was pretty cool to see. That's definitely a reward. And sometimes I ask my customers when I do something special, you know, like a custom order or something, I ask them to send me a photo when it's all framed and hung, and because I just like seeing where it ends up. I like seeing its eventual home. The name of my studio is Lilac Pop Studio. I'm located in Ferndale, so I'm right at the corner of 9 Mile and Woodward inside the Ferndale Center building. I'm really happy with what I can do now. I really like that I can do a little bit of everything. I love shooting real estate. Yesterday I shot 7 houses in a row. I was all over the place from, you know, started off in Birmingham, ended up in Shelby Township, you know, just driving all day. But I really enjoy it. And then the jewelry, I just really enjoy that. And, you know, the dresses, I mean, come on.